Welcome to Equipped, a podcast by Connection Church. My name is Natalie Irvan, and today I'm joined by the first ladies of the church, Macey Thigpen, Susan Williams, and Raven Buchanan. So welcome, ladies. This is totally different for me. Normally I'm doing kind of my own thing, but Jordan asked me if I would get y'all together, and this is a rare moment that we all get to actually be in the same room and without our kids and actually get to have a conversation. And so I think today is going to be really special just to kind of let people in to our lives a little bit. As I know that we say pastors' wives, but I mean, we are pastors' wives, but I think there's kind of a connotation that comes with that. And we're going to kind of get into that if y'all feel like that's the culture here at the church. I've never really felt like that's a label that has necessarily been put on me, but we do want to talk from that lens of what it's like to be alongside our husbands as they do ministry, be a part of ministry with them, and just life at Connection Church, which is great. It's a great place to be. So I guess we'll just start by, if you'll introduce yourself, tell everybody who you are, how long you've been married, what you do.
Okay, I'll go first. I'm Raven Buchanan. I've been here for the last, I think we're at 12 years this week, actually. I am a elementary school teacher. I teach kindergarten, and we've been married. Chase and I have been married for 12 years, and we have a almost 8-year-old this week, and son Owen, and then a 3-year-old daughter Josie.
I'm Susan Williams. Brandon and I have been married 26 years. We'll be 27 November. So I'm an occupational therapist, and I work in the Bullock County school system. So I work with my sweet babies. We have 3 children. Dake is 23, and he's newly married to Laura Ashley. Jackson is 19, and Reed is 15.
I'm Macey Thigpen. Jordan and I have been married for...
Think about it.
I just completely forgot. We've been married for 12 years. This year will be 12 years. We have 3 kids. They are... McClendon is 9, Charlotte is 6, almost 7, and Keller is 4. And I homeschool and so my days are spent with them.
Super mom.
Mm-hmm. Nah,
for
I don't
sure.
know about that.
I can't even imagine. But like I said, I'm Natalie, and I've been married to John for 13 years. I had to think about it while y'all were coming up with yours. We have Harper, who is almost 10, and Adeline, who is 7, and I'm a special education teacher, and that's about all there is to know about me. So basically, when we get into this, I kind of want to know, when did, because Susan is...
I'm the old one, yes.
She's the matriarch of the family. And so, Susan, I know that a lot of people have heard kind of how Brandon started the church, his vision for that, but I know that you played a huge role in that, in starting the church. And so I want to kind of hear from you, what were your first thoughts when you found out that you could potentially be a pastor's wife?
Well, first of all, I have asked how honest that I can be. So I'm going to try to be honest. No, really, by that point that we were talking about and praying about and discussing and starting the church, I was not surprised I kind of felt the calling as well to help Brandon start the church. Kind of how Brandon and I have worked together as a couple in our life is he is a visionary, he gets the ideas, and God kind of gives me the timing. Several have heard before that we were in our bathroom that morning getting ready, and he said, I feel like it's time to start the church. He was brushing his teeth, and I think I was maybe brushing my teeth too. Maybe I was doing something else, but I was like, okay. And so it was just kind of where I wasn't surprised. There's some times that I've had to either say, let me think about this for a minute, or let me pray about this for a minute, and maybe not put on the brakes, so to speak, but maybe just I need some time to process this, where he's already processed it and thought it, and he's ready to go. He's ready to hit the ground running.
Yeah.
Sometimes it takes me a little bit of time to get moving. So so when we started the church, like I said, I was not surprised. But more probably, he had to probably encourage me a little bit sometimes to say, hey, this is what we're doing, and just kind of make me feel, because I'm a big comfort person. I like my safety net. I like my bubble, and so sometimes to step out of that it just takes me a little bit longer. So,
Did you ever feel initially like this pressure put on you as y'all started the church of that now I mean, obviously, your family was a pillar in the community beforehand, so you were kind of already known because of Mr. Bruce and, the restaurant and just all the different ways that your family played a part in the community. But did you ever feel any pressure from people to be a certain way because you were now the pastor's wife?
Not so much from outside the community. Really not. It was nobody putting pressure on me. I think as far as, there's probably two parts to that. So one part of when we started the church, I probably was a little bit nervous thinking, oh, people are going to think we're crazy.
Yeah,
Here we are, and like Brandon has said many times, we're in a community that has 100 churches in it. Why start another one? So it was probably more thinking, oh gosh, what are they going to think? Or are they going to think we're crazy? On one hand, and then the other hand, obviously feeling like God's calling us to do this, we're going to do it. Within the church, within our church community, so to speak, it wasn't that anybody was putting the pressure on me. I almost put the pressure on myself. So, I grew up, one of my best friends, she was a pastor's daughter, and so I grew up around a pastor's family. I would go on vacations with them and all that. So I saw her mom and dad and how her mom was as a pastor's wife. So sweet, so precious, had so many great qualities that she had. And so I've always looked up to her. And but in my mind, she was the perfect pastor's wife. And I kind of put that in my head. And my personality was so different than hers. She was so sweet and just I feel like she, could just do all the things. She was a leader. And then there was another woman that I knew of who was a pastor's wife. We weren't great friends, but I kind of had her as my person that I would think of as a pastor's wife. And she, she spoke, she led, she taught from the stage. She did all those things. She could sing. She could do all those things. So those things were kind of in my mind. So it was more me putting pressure on myself.
To fulfill different roles. Yeah. What about you, Macey? I know that y'all have had kind of a different experience because initially you were in D.C. when Jordan felt that calling to be part of ministry. So what was that experience like for you?
So it actually backs up even further. He felt the call to ministry basically like right after he got saved.
Okay.
So we were still in college, and he approached me and said, I like you. I want to go on a date with you, but I'm going to be a pastor. And if you don't want to be a pastor's wife, then we can't date. And so I had to pray about, okay, God, what does this look like in my life? And I have a degree in fashion merchandising, fully planned to move to New York, and the Lord completely changed my heart, and for the better. I cannot imagine myself living in New York, and that's just another world to think about. But so it was just kind of always the plan for us. And then we got married young and moved away to seminary, and just knew we wanted to help plant a church or be church planners. We didn't really know what that was going to look like. So we went through seminary and helped plant a church in D.C. in Georgetown. And so then not very long into the church plant, it was like a year that we were there, we felt the Lord was calling us to move back home to be with family because our parents' health wasn't great. And so we just wanted to be back with family. And it was all in the Lord's timing because we moved 3 to 4 months before COVID hit. Wow. And so we came here in the middle of kind of everything changing. And so that's kind of how we wound up back in Statesboro.
Yeah. How do you feel like how do you feel like y'all have kind of decided your role in ministry? Is that something that y'all have talked about, or, how do you feel like you support him in his desires to serve in ministry, or do you feel like that's two totally separate things for y'all?
So for us, I would say we have talked about it a lot, and it has always been, he has never wanted me to do anything that I felt like the Lord wasn't calling me to do. Mm-hmm. So if I don't feel like the Lord's calling me to serve in an area, I'm not going to serve in that area just because my husband's one of the pastors.
Right.
Because no one else is doing that, so why do we have to do that? Mm-hmm. And so that's always been our approach to it. And then on the flip side of that, it's always been, what are ways that I can support him, whether that's in our Connect group or in ministries that he's involved in? How can I come alongside of it with things that I've learned and I've experienced from the other churches we've been a part of, or the other church planning networks we've been a part of. And then also our role, we have decided that my main role is to disciple our kids at home. And there were so many times that a person that used to go to our church would ask me who I'm discipling, and I would always say the 3 figs. That's who I'm discipling right now, and I'm okay with that. And I know that the Lord is pleased with what I'm doing, and I don't have to spread myself too thin to be able to say I'm discipling all of these people, or to put it down on a list, or to really make myself feel good because I'm doing more outside of my home than what right now I feel like the Lord is calling me to do. And I know that's going to change in seasons. It's already changing because they're getting older, and they don't need me as much as they used to. So that's always been, it's kind of just been, we say that we approach it open-handed. We just let the Lord guide us and change it when it's time for it to change. And so right now, that's where we feel the most at peace about what the Lord's calling me to do.
I love that. I love how you talked about being spread thin, because I think a lot of times that is the pressure that you put on yourself is, I've got to do all of these different things. I've got to meet with this person and this person and this person and this person. And they're counting on me, and I've always done this, so I always have to do it, rather than really stepping back and refocusing and saying, no, my number one job for discipleship is my home, and then what overflows from that. But Raven, I know being a worship pastor's wife is a little bit different. And so I kind of want to hear about your experience. I know that Chase was doing music and things before y'all got married, but how has that transition been as a pastor's wife in that way?
Well, Chase had a call on his life before we started dating. So he kind of had the same conversation that Macey was talking about when she said that. I was like, yeah, I remember that. But I knew going into that relationship that was his, end goal and his calling. And it just looked different ways. I mean, you have dreams and you have aspirations. And I can just remember being at the church that we were at before in Alabama. It was his home church, and the people were amazing. We loved them. And basically we had to find a new job because it was the church was kind of financially in a place where it was going to have to basically close. And we looked everywhere. Oh my gosh, I can remember Chase having interviews in Miami and me being a little stressed about, am I going that far away from family?
Girl from Alabama going to Miami.
Yep. I was like, I don't know about this. But the Lord just one day just showed connection on some random website, and he literally got a phone call and a Zoom meeting, and or maybe it was Skype back then, I think. And we were down here within a week of all that, and he was trying out. And then I just remember this place, feeling different, and just seeing him and all the stuff that he's been able to do here is just amazing. I don't think we would have gotten that in Alabama. So, yeah. Just the songwriting and all the people. I mean, oh my gosh, there's so many talented musicians that have come through this church, whether they were in college and they moved on or whatever, but there was just so many talented people. And I feel like Chase's thing has always been to be humble about your calling. And so, yeah, I cannot sing. It is not my gifting.
So you decided that wasn't going to be your role to play. in
Yeah.
ministry, right?
For a while, he thought I could sing. And in the beginning of our relationship, and I can remember my best friend Madison being like, no, like, I don't think we have the same person here, you know? And, anyways, but yeah, that's not my gifting. I have other gifts and talents, and it's been kind of the same way. If I was not led to do it, then I shouldn't do it. And I can literally remember coming here and talking with all of you guys when we first came, and that was one of the things that the elders kept saying was, you're not here for a 2-for-1 deal. You know, like, we don't expect you to basically do your full-time job and then also be full-time for free at our church. You know, like, we want you to, you know, serve where you feel called to serve and not force anything on you. So that was nice to hear and know that it was okay to, you know, step back. I can remember stepping back when my children were young, and taking some time away from different things, and because my children needed me at that time, you know, and overworking myself was not going to help, you know, like trying to raise children, disciple them, be a teacher. I taught 4th grade forever, and then just recently went back to kindergarten the last 2 years. And then also trying to serve at the church. So you have to look at the bigger picture. And I loved what Macey said about discipling her children and that being the forefront of her mind. And I think that as a pastor's wife and you know, as a mom, that should always be at the forefront of our mind, and we shouldn't let anyone make us feel guilty if that's not what
we're called to do.
to do more.
Yeah, and I'll say this too. I know I kind of referenced the pastor's wives that I have experienced in the past, and in the families, and I will say that me putting that pressure on myself, I feel like was something that I did. And, you know, in the beginning when we first started the church, obviously there were things that we had to do. I mean, we had to clean. We had to do things because, and we all joined in. It wasn't just like me and Brandon. It was everybody. I mean, you know, doing that. So there was obviously things I had to do, but it was kind of cool. I actually remembered this, and so I brought my Bible to share with you. I write down things when I feel like God gives me a word or you know, speaks something to my heart. I write down the date, and it was July the 10th of 2011, and it said, God revealed my purpose, and it said, I wrote, I am called to be a wife, support, love, care, and build Brandon up, and a mom, love and nourish my kids and disciple them. And I put, no matter what other pastors' wives do, this is who God has called me to be. So that's something that I've kind of been able to stand on. And, you know, when we start feeling bad or whatever, I've just been like, you know, I don't need to do that because God's called me to be a mom and a wife, and that's who He's called me to be. And I think, like Macey said, the different seasons, I mean, obviously my kids are growing and grown and older now, so I'm able to do more things to some aspect. And so I still think and now really praying again, because I don't just want to jump into something. I want it to be what God's called me to do. And so that's kind of the season I am, where you guys have young babies still. And I love seeing them around and, you know, running around. That's another thing too. I feel like, you know, when Brandon and I first got into ministry, we were doing it together. It wasn't going to be his job and then something that he was going to put us on the, you know, the back burner. He was like, and I remember the first full-time ministry position he applied for, and he was like, you know, I went to the interview because he was like, we're going to do this together. It's not going to be just me. And and so the fact that all of y'all's kids and the other staff's kids are running around, and that makes my heart happy because that's what mine were doing. And so and you may occasionally see them running around and wrestling and something.
They still do a little bit.
Just don't go in the office on Sundays after the sermon. They may be wrestling. But no, just the fact of that makes my heart happy because I feel like, I hope everybody in the church understands that our kids, this is a home for them. Yeah. And I want their kids to feel a home too, but this is, especially a home for our kids when we're up here a lot. Yeah. So just seeing them feel comfortable do that makes me happy. So
and wanting them to love it.
Yes.
And they do right now at their age. I feel like they love being up here. It's something that, do we get to go to church today? Do we get to go play in kids? Of course, Harper with the baby ring situation. But I think it's like, the culture that Brandon set from the very beginning, I feel like was our kids are not going to be tied to a certain, image just because they're the pastor's kids. They're going to be who they are. Mm-hmm. And we're going to raise them to love the Lord and hopefully, put them on the right path. But our kids are our kids, and they're allowed to be kids, and they're just like everybody else's. And so, like you said, just having the village of people come around them and love them. And I just feel like, sometimes pastors' kids, people are like, oh, no, we don't, pastors' kids, you don't want pastors' kids, whatever. Yeah. But I feel like it's a blessing. I feel like our community and our church culture embraces that and loves our children more than anything else. And I feel like we couldn't do what we do, or I know we wouldn't have gotten through a lot of things as a family if we didn't have the pastors' wives and the staff and the people that serve here. I mean, we just have a really great culture. And so I do think it matters what kind of culture that you build and what your expectations are of your people. Yeah. And so I guess going back to how we met, me and John was already in ministry. He was already the youth pastor or the student pastor. He's had a lot of roles at the church, but I just kind of came in with this idea. I was already going to the church by accident, actually, because my roommate had broken her leg and she was serving in the nursery. And back in the day, there was only like 2 people in the nursery. So she was like, you have to go serve for me. And I'm like, I don't go to that church. But turns out back then, I didn't need a background check, Susan. You just let me in.
I would have let anybody in, but I'm very thankful for you.
I just held babies with Miss Bobby and the rest is kind of history because after that, I just stayed. I mean, how can you not? And so then after that, I mean, I knew John, and that's a whole thing of kind of knowing him, but not really knowing him. And I just thought he was weird. And but then ended up as a teacher going through the program, the education program, ended up having this great relationship with some 5th graders who are now married and have kids, and it's super weird. But had a great relationship with these 5th graders who were transitioning into youth and really wanted them to have a smooth transition. And so I met with John at a coffee shop to talk through how can we make this, a good transition. Can I be a part of youth? I've never done students before, but this is something I feel like I'm called to do. And from there, we started dating. And so whenever I told my mom that I was dating a youth pastor, she's like, oh, okay. Because I hadn't really, I'd just been having fun in college. It wasn't really that I was not living this, a good life. I was, but I just wasn't in committed relationships very long. And so she's like, I hope you know what you're doing, because he's older and he's established, and not that he's that much older. I feel like I'm being weird, but he was only 4 years older than me, but he was much more established and mature than I was. And so I think we kind of matured together. He really helped me to mellow out, to really dig in more into my relationship with the Lord, but also to find my purpose within the church. And so it really became a team effort. And so then we moved to the high school, and it was just, we did everything together as a team. And I still remember one of my favorite memories was going and getting Brandon's dad's really, really old diesel truck at 11 p.m. because we had no kids. And so we're just 11 sounds great. Let's go pick up the truck and take it to the high school with the trailer so that we can load in at 5 a.m. on Sunday morning.
Oh, wow, yes.
And it was such a long trip, but we did it together and it was fun. And it's how did we do that? And now we're in bed at 8:30, just ready to crash. But yeah, I think John's been the same way, just kind of as you all have mentioned, just, do what you feel called to do and don't put pressure on yourself to be anybody that you're not. You're Natalie, and that's what makes you purposeful in the kingdom, is that you're, God created you to just be you. And sometimes, he's like, all right, tone it down. But also,
No,
God
don't tone it
created
down.
me
We
to
love
be
you.
me. So.
That's right. We love you.
Sorry, John. Okay, so I know that we've talked about discipling. We've talked about discipling our own kids, but I know that we've probably been discipled in our lives at some point, but then also discipled others. So what role do you feel like you've played in that process, either as, someone being discipled and that's impacted you, or vice versa, stepped into that role to disciple?
I'll
Sure,
talk.
go ahead.
I feel like I was discipled a lot when I was in youth ministry and college ministry at my church back in Alabama. And I love those people, and I still can call them at any time, especially one in particular. And she was pastor's wife, and she was the youth pastor's wife. And she just poured everything that she could into us, spent as much time she could. She allowed us in her home. She allowed us to spend the night and have like great, huge, girl slumber parties. And her daughter was 4 when I first met them. And so she basically grew up with us. And then now she's married, which is weird. But I don't know. I feel like she in particular had a huge impact on my life, and I could just see through things that she had personally, gone through and loss that she had. She was able to just love us and disciple us and talk to us and just be available. I think that was one of the coolest things, was just being available. To talk things through. And yes, she was leading, Bible studies and things like that, but she was also always available.
More of the presence.
Mm-hmm. And she cared and loved you. So.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of, I can't remember a specific person, so to speak, but I just remember probably from youth group on, probably the people I was babysitting for, or even like our youth pastors and their family, just hanging out, and even coaches. Brandon and I did start dating, whatever you want to call it now these days, liking each other at an early age. And so and he played sports. I was always at the ball field. So we would get closest to the coaches and their wives, and, and so we would hang out with their families, and then also hanging out with the youth pastors' families, and just, so I think those, just doing life with those and seeing how they did life. And like I said, babysitting, I would go on a specific family. I would go on vacations with them and just seeing them. So those were kind of the people who I felt like were my mentors or discipleship. And it was really through them being available. I like that word. They were available and just being just part of their daily lives. To me, that was a huge, and I was very blessed to have my parents as great examples, and grandparents as great examples. And so I think through all of that, I would say those were the people who discipled me. I can't say one person that that actually did that.
It's more of a community.
It's more of a community. So
Yeah.
I would say a little bit of the same. Definitely growing up, I had people that discipled me just by their lives. But when we first got married and moved to seminary, they called them growth groups at our church there. Our growth group leader was Jordan's theology professor, and so he would travel a lot, and his wife had a 2-year-old, and she would just call me and be like, hey, he's gone for the weekend. Do you want to just come hang out while her daughter's name was Kaya, while I put her to bed? And I was like, sure. So 10 o'clock at night, I'm still at her house, and we would just sit down and or I would just show up at her house, and because Jordan and I had gotten into one of those newlywed fights, and she'd be like, "But do you see how you acted sinful in that?" And I'm like, "But that's not why I'm here. Like, I want you to tell me what he did wrong so I can go home and talk about it." But she just helped me see how to love my spouse, and also just the way that she parented. I got to watch her put her kid to bed every night, or not every night, but when I was over there, and just ate dinner with them. We were just a part of their lives in all areas. And her husband's one of Jordan's mentors. But we even named our oldest, her middle name is after their daughter. But so it's just really cool that the way that the Lord, I could sit here and talk about us going to seminary for forever, because I would not say that everyone that goes into ministry needs to go to seminary. But for us, it was so beneficial because we both grew in ways outside of being at seminary, just the people that the Lord put in our lives at that season of our life that we needed it. And so it has helped her. So my relationship with her has helped me learn how to love my family well, but also how to disciple people well. To ask the hard questions, to be willing to call people out on things that they needed to be called out on, and not just be like, yeah, you're doing great, when they're not.
Yeah. I think that's so important, of just being able to have your home open and ready to allow people in. I think that's something that's been really humbling for me recently, because over the past year, I've been discipling some college students, and I never really even saw myself doing that. I was really intimidated by it for some reason. I thought they wouldn't think I was cool, and they would think I was just old and out of touch. And so I really shied away from it. But once I started doing that, they would text me and be like, "Can I come over?" And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, my house is messy. They're going to expect me, I'm going to have to entertain them. I'm going to have to let me clean up, let me do all this." And what the Lord has really shown me is that they don't care. They just want to be a part of your life. They just want to sit on the couch and sit there. It's not that big of a deal, They just want to. And so I guess it's just been really humbling to be in that position, whereas I've always seen other people in that position. I've always seen myself looking to them, like me looking to Susan for something. And now I'm in that role, we're in that role of students looking to us to watch how we parent, or watch just how we interact with our families, or they want our advice, or they just want to feel our presence, and that's comforting to them, And so, to me, that's just been so incredibly special and life-giving that, I don't have to worry about all that little stuff. I don't have to worry about constantly, entertaining, just being present and being myself and being there for people is enough, and is what they're looking for, and just... and the joy that they bring to my life, it's just so special. But yeah, I think that's a huge thing in our church is discipling and discipleship, and that a lot of that changed, even when you're not sitting down and just opening the Bible and reading from, the start of your time to the finish of your time. It's more about being present, being willing to have hard conversations, being willing to just sit down and actually talk about deep stuff, not just that surface level.
And I think that's something, because my generation, I feel like discipleship was not a huge part. I mean, it was more Bible studies and more, and not even, I wouldn't even say like our Connect groups. I wouldn't even say it was like that. It was more just you went in, you listened to somebody teach the Bible study, and then you may have you did prayer requests, and then you went away. So it wasn't even the doing life together through the Connect group. So with discipleship, I will say that's something that has really intimidated me, because I'm not one that can just, quote out scriptures like that. Right. But I can do life with you, and I can care for you, and I can love on you. And so I feel like that's probably been something that just within the last probably 5 to 10 years, something that I've really had to step back and look at and realize that, I may not know the Bible back and forth, every scripture in it, but I can still be positive influence and still be, there to disciple someone.
And you do have so much wisdom.
So.
I mean, because because I think that there's so much value in wisdom and in experience. When you go through things
some bad experience, some good experience.
But I think,
some things don't do like I did.
Right. But the bad experiences, I feel like, shape us into knowing the things that we wish we would have done. That now we can say, I've been there, and let me tell you something. This is what I wish I would have done in that situation. Correct. Or, there's so much wisdom that comes with just experience. And I feel like that's so much of what, I love. When I have a situation and I'm talking to you about it, I feel like that's what I gain is just so much wisdom of, here's what I'm thinking about this. And, yep, I've been through a similar situation. And there's nothing like that when you can have somebody that really understands. That's a lot to offer.
But I look at you guys and see, you guys have young children. I'm like, gosh, I should have done that with my kids. You know what I mean? So
always evolving.
It is.
But I was going to say, there's one thing none of us mentioned is like a Bible verse that somebody shared with us, or the Bible verses that we went, or the Bible studies that we went through. It was that people did life with us, and that's who really stuck out to us. Mm-hmm. And to what you're saying, it feels intimidating to disciple somebody because you don't know, you don't have the whole book of Romans memorized.
Right.
But you can just sit down and love people and care about them. And that's what we're supposed to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So what do you feel like is one of your favorite memories here at Connection Church? Any favorite memories that you've had?
Don't start with me. I'm going to think about that.
Okay, I'll go because I really do have
years
a
to
recent
think about
one.
that.
You have a lot of years to think about.
I have a lot of years, yeah.
I have one right off the top of my head that was one of the best memories, and that's when we baptized people at the baseball field.
Yeah.
Man, that was just so cool. That was so fun, from start to finish. I think from everybody's perspective, I was next to people who were being baptized. So I'm watching all of these people just come out of the water, and it's just the most beautiful thing. But then I'm also looking over, and Raven has my children in the dugout, and they're dancing, and they're praising, and they're singing the songs. And it's from every angle is a different part of my life that I'm watching experience this beautiful thing. And how amazing is that, right? That we get to be witnesses of life change every single Sunday, but then moments like that where our kids are part of it, our friends, our family, we're just in this huge crowd of people who are just all celebrating. And anytime we're in those situations, the spontaneous baptisms, it's just amazing to watch. We know God's going to move, but when we actually see it come to fruition, it's just, I don't know, there's just nothing like it.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
That was cool, for sure.
Yeah.
Sometimes I think about times like that, and I can look back and think about there's probably a million times through the years of the church that I'm like, how do I doubt God? Because I've seen what He's done.
Yeah.
Why do I doubt Him sometimes? Yeah. Why do I question if He's going to be there, if He's, certain things, because He's been there. So I definitely, those were some great times for sure. So.
There's a lot that come to mind, but this year, the One More Time Sunday, it just still really stands out. I just think about it all the time.
Yeah.
It was so
incredible. Good. After the prayer and fasting. So if anybody doesn't know who's listening, we had the 21 days of prayer and fasting, and then we had this service, and the amount of people that came forward who had been praying for people who didn't know the Lord to come to know the Lord. Just really incredible things happening and lots of life change.
Yeah. I was standing, I think I was on the second row. We were standing together, and people are just flooding. And I looked at Jordan, and I was like, do they need help? And he was like, I think so.
Yeah, right.
I was like, I'm not on the prayer team.
On deck. Let's go.
Somebody.
Yeah, I know. It's really special. And I think people don't understand how rare that is. I don't think churches everywhere are not seeing that kind of response. That's not an everyday Sunday or every Sunday type of response. And I think we sometimes can take that for granted, and to see that God move in that incredible way. It's just really special. I just hope it's not ever something that
we take for granted.
That I get tired of seeing.
Yes.
It's really.
I feel like y'all have said so many good ones. So, I can just remember even like a few years ago, I was pregnant with Josie, and that's when Chase had the big recording in the auditorium, and
so
they kind of
cool.
did it
That was fun.
a different way instead of just on the stage. And I don't know, it was just cool to
like
go
really
to and
intimate.
experience, and everybody was worshiping, everybody knew the songs, and those songs have helped a lot of people, and they have really good stories that go with with the songs, and just things that are impactful for people. And I know it's been a little hot minute since that's gone down, but so much has happened since that too.
Yeah.
But I can still go back to those songs and just be thankful.
Yeah. I think it's cool to listen back to all the songs that Chase and the team have written too, because you can kind of see the church and the seasons that they were in during each of those times. And so that's really special too. Like hearing Lydia sing at Vidalia, I think I heard a recording a few weeks ago of her singing. What's the song that she sings and it's so amazing? Oh my gosh. Of course I'm going to like forget it on this. But anyway, she sings this
I know
amazing
exactly what you're
song
talking about.
and I always used to love listening to her sing it. And it just like brought tears to my eyes listening to her. And it was just a recording from Vidalia's worship service. And it just reminded me of those times. And so it like brings you back to, man, that was such a crazy season, or like that was such a beautiful season, and just what God was doing in that. Because I mean, we've had kids and we've moved and we've had tragedies and we've had, victories, and it's just a lot of things, a lot of emotions go into what we, what our husbands do and what we do here is just, it's really, it's great. It's good stuff.
I'll go back to the Blue Building because I think that's when I do. There's two things that stand out. The first Vacation Bible School that we did. I don't remember the name of the actual the week, but it was the Fruits of the Spirit is what we did. And
With the farmers? Was it like the
I can't remember, but I just remember we decorated cardboard boxes and we had all the fruits of the Spirit everywhere. And just seeing the kids come to that was just lots and lots of fun. And then, remember the kids section was in the office building next door, I guess is what it was called. But being over there, and obviously a lot of my memories are when my kids got baptized and when Brandon was able to baptize him. The baptisms in the river. As a matter of fact, I was going through pictures last night, and I found a picture of Brandon baptizing my mom, which was incredibly special. And, that same day he actually baptized me, so that was really neat. But I remember I was in Brandon Jackson, our middle one, was probably 3, 4. He had told Brandon that he wanted to preach. And Brandon's like, okay, that's fine. You just say yes and just go on with your day. Well, the whole time during
don't forget.
I know. The whole time during the kids' during the sermon, I'm over there with the kids, and Jackson's like, Mama, am I going to go preach? I'm like, I don't know. I don't know what to say. So I said, we'll go over there at the end. So at the end of the service, I walked over with him. And I can't remember if we had talked about it before that morning or whatever. So I walked him over at the end of the service, and he went, those little, all the little burgundy purple chairs were set up, and he went down the aisle, and Brandon, of course, saw him, and Brandon called him down there, and he got on there, and Brandon knelt down beside him and had the microphone, and I think this is what Jackson said. He's like, Jesus loves you, and Jesus died for you. And that mic drop, that was it.
Period. What else do you
Period.
need?
He walked off the stage. So that was a special time for, that. And then, like I said, the Jake and Reed getting baptized was all, special. And then just, the Wednesday afternoons that they would, we used to do the Wednesday afternoon programs. I could list a million. So there was lots of memories. So lots
There's
of
been
fun
so
times.
many good
Yes.
things. So many good things. So along with the good things are the hard things, right? I mean, there's hard things in ministry, and I would say that a lot of people maybe maybe not, but I think that the assumption is from the outside that when you work at a church or when you are a part of a church that things are really great and it's, you read your Bible all day and you talk about Jesus all day and you pray all day and it's just like really great and like everyone acts like they're supposed to and all the good things, but there are hard things about being in ministry because we're all people and we're broken. And so what do you feel like is maybe the hardest thing that might surprise people about being a pastor's wife or just being in ministry? Who wants to dive in first?
Me? Okay.
No, I'm kidding. You don't have to.
Well, I think one of the hardest things is seeing how ministry affects your spouse. And I know for us, Jordan has always been very cautious of things that he shares with me because I can like, oh, they said that about you? They don't need to go to our church anymore. Or like, make a stank face when I pass them in the atrium on Sunday mornings. And so just not be Christ-like at all. So he's like tried to keep things from me. And so for a season, he would come home and I could tell that something had happened. And he didn't want to share it with me. And so he would say, today was an orange light day and I need to go to the bedroom for a minute before I can like be a dad. And so just things like that, like we had to come up with ways that it would work for our family because we know each other well enough to know like what's going to be best for us when this situation is resolved and you move out of it. What's best for our family moving forward. And so for us, we had to come up with things like that. But just to see like how, I'm sure everybody's job has hard days and you come home with a hard day. But ministry just weighs so heavy because you want the best for people. And a lot of times people don't see that. They think that you're just coming at them from a holier place or, whatever the case may be. And it can just weigh heavy on our spouse, and then we have to like either we need to know all of the information to be able to love them and help them through it, or we don't need to know all of the information and you just kind of blindly like,
It's a very fine line.
Yeah, is today better than yesterday? And you just you just don't really know. Yeah, I know, you just never really know what's going to happen when they walk in the door, or when they get a phone call and walk outside, and are they going to come back inside?
Yeah, and I'm like so nosy. I'm like, tell me now. What was it? But then I'm the same way. Get very, protective because you love your husband and want the best for them too. And I would say along the same lines, one of the hardest things is when something is misconstrued or there's a perception, maybe something is not perceived in the right way, or maybe they're misunderstood in some way, and their heart, and so that hurts to know that you can't correct it or fix it or make it better, or go and clarify things that maybe were misrepresented, and also friendships. It's very personal. There's people that have been in and out of our lives throughout the years that we loved so dearly that maybe left the church for one reason or another. Sometimes it's for fine reasons, and sometimes it's not. And that's really difficult because, it's their job here vocationally, but it's also extremely personal. And so you have that relational aspect to it. And when they leave, it's like you're losing part of that friendship. And so that's something that you kind of have to reconcile with. And that can be really difficult.
It's difficult for our families too. Like our kids get involved with people and attached to people.
Absolutely.
And if someone left our church at one point and the kids were like, I haven't seen so-and-so in a while. And I told them that they went to another church. No big deal. Right. There were no issues. They just wanted to go to a different church. And the kids were like, but why? Connection's the best church in the world. Right. Why would you leave?
Don't understand. Yeah.
I know, but
Yeah.
I feel like the enemy can use situations and moments, and I think he knows exactly where to get us. And attacking our husband's like character definitely can get you riled up a little bit. But I think you just sometimes have to step away and say, you know, he is here to kill, steal, and destroy, you know, and it can just be used, and you have to, you know, move on and get over it. And then there's some Sundays where, you know, somebody will complain about something, and then I have to be like, well, you don't know what it took for it to get him on the stage.
That's right. That's right.
You know, like, you don't know what he's been through to get through this stage, and like what attacks from the enemy. You know, I think Chase even shared it on Friday. A new song came out, and like so many attacks from the enemy all that week, and so just to get that song released, and so I think it's just hard to see how, I guess, Satan can use certain situations to make them seem misconstrued or, you know, different than they actually are. But yeah, so sometimes it takes a lot for them to get on stage every Sunday.
Yes,
You don't, there's
absolutely.
probably something that happened that week. It probably was not all sunshine and butterflies.
Absolutely.
And I think that's one of the coolest things about our church is a lot of times the honesty. Brandon has always been honest about how
Probably a
he
little too honest.
feels.
No, I'm teasing.
No, I mean, like, how he feels, and like even like mentally, like I think that's he's honest about it, and I feel like that's why so many people relate to him and can, you know, understand him, or even I don't know, feel comfortable here, because it's not a stigma. It's not a let's sweep it under the rug.
Yeah, let's
you
cover
know?
up all the hard stuff and put on
Yeah.
a smile. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I may need you to ask the question again to make sure I stay on line with this, stay on the
I
right
just think,
lane.
you know, what is the hardest thing for you that might
so-
surprise people, or maybe wouldn't
I was
surprise
about to say, it may not surprise people. I mean, I agree 100% with everything you guys said, and I probably could have added, you know, a little bits and pieces to all of the things you guys said. Definitely, you know, people leaving the church and for one reason or another, that's hard. You know, and Brandon and I have never wanted people to feel like they had to come to Connection because of us, especially in the beginning. Even our family, we didn't even, you know, we're like, you guys don't have to come, because we want it to be a place where God's leading you and God's calling you to come. So that definitely, you know, resonated with me. You know, definitely losing the friendships. And, you know, it's funny, I started thinking, I think, Natalie, you were saying this about the, you know, if they started going to another church or whatever, and you feel like you lose the friendships, and 100% agree. And, you know, I think about, like, I was trying to think of if in a world, I hate to say worldly job, but, you know, for instance, if you stopped shopping at one spot and went to another, or, you know, chose to eat at a restaurant one night and went to a
Right.
different restaurant, you wouldn't
Doesn't
really,
matter.
it doesn't
Right.
matter. But for some reason, the church is so, and I know why. I mean, it's a spiritual battle, and it's a spiritual thing. And, you know, you're dealing with people's eternities and not just their surface level lives. And they're bringing so many more emotions into the church versus into a store or restaurant, you know. So I do understand why. And then, you know, Raven, what you said, there's some days, they don't want to get on stage. I mean, I can probably tell you, and Brandon, I feel like I can share this because I feel like Brandon has been very honest with his struggles with mental health and with depression and things like that. But, I mean, there's been lots of mornings before he, you know, gets up to preach, and he'll text me or call me, I don't think I can do this today. You know, and I'm like, okay, how do I handle this? You know, in the beginning, my reaction was probably, you know, I was freaking out inside and thinking like, oh, what are we going to do? You know what? And then it got to be where I knew that it was going to be okay and that God was going to get him up there. And so it got to be where I was more calm about it. So I definitely see ministry's hard.
Yeah.
That's all I can say. I mean, it's hard. There's definitely the things we shared before. So many great memories and so many great things happen. So that definitely outweighs the hard days. But probably for me personally, the things that's the hardest is how it does affect him personally because of his passion and love for Jesus and for others to be saved and to live a life that's fulfilled by Christ, and that they are living a life up, loving God and following God and his desire for that. Is when those things don't happen, or when people go astray, or people do things not to him, but because he cares for them so much, it hurts him, and how that affects him. And he tries his best not to bring it home, and he does a great job at that, but I know him well enough. I mean, we've been together, married 26, 10 before that, so 36 years we've been together, and I know his thoughts. I know his feelings, most of them. I know his feelings, and to see how that hurts him, I can become like, if I know the person that happened to, I can become real quick mama bear or wife bear, I don't know what you would call it, where I'm like,
Let me take care of it.
So this is probably the first time I've been behind a microphone that I can share. I think they've all been scared to give me one over the past. No. But, and having to love people through that, and when they've hurt him or that kind of thing is hard. And in that, or the expectations they put on my kids.
Yeah.
You said the kids, pastor kids are held, they're labeled or whatever. And just recently, my youngest, had the experience not here at church, but at a different environment where someone did say, you should know that you're a pastor's kid, or you should do that because you're a pastor's kid. And where I wanted to come out swinging or fighting because I was like, don't mess with my babies. I'm a pretty calm person, gentle person, but when it comes to my kids and my babies, that's another level. So,
it is.
And but then having to sit back and say, hey, that's not what they meant. That's not how they meant it. Just that kind of thing is so. But
So I kind of feel like what everyone should take from this, if you're listening, I'm sure there's a lot of people that are listening, but that we should all just have grace for each other.
Absolutely.
And
I was thinking that too, not meaning to interrupt you.
No, you're good.
But I think about my dad owned a restaurant, so I'll think about like waitresses. When I go to a restaurant and they may get an order wrong or be in a bad mood, but you never know what's going on behind, what happened before.
Yeah.
And so just showing them grace and, it's okay,
Right.
so, and just trying to have grace. And I think about that a lot with us and our husbands and, even the other staff members who are not married, and just you have to have grace. So
And giving people the benefit of the doubt.
Absolutely.
That like a lot of times it is out of love, the reasons that they're hurt or they're coming to you in that way. And then the accountability, that's a whole nother.
Yes.
Jordan can handle that. That's a whole nother
That's another
living
one.
podcast.
Yeah.
But I guess just to wrap things up, what are y'all looking the most forward to? What are you most excited about? Because I feel like we're doing this together. No one's leaving. I've already warned. I'm like, listen, I need like extensive notice if anyone does leave me, because I have to
Process it.
grieve.
Yeah.
And it's all about me, really, at the end of the day. So, but what are we looking forward to as we move forward as a church? God's doing huge things. I really feel like He's moving in an amazing way. So, what does the next 5 years hold? What's exciting? No one's leaving.
I have a
but
15-year-old. I don't want to talk about it.
we don't even talk about our kids' ages.
I will be empty nesters. We'll be empty
you'll
nesters.
be empty nesters.
Totally.
Is that what you're looking forward to?
No. No. I can say this past Friday night, Reed was gone. The other two don't live there. And Brandon and I kind of looked at each other and like, what do we do? We were watching the television show and neither one of us really
Was it
cared for
quiet?
it. Yes.
You can invite us over.
Okay.
I like the quiet.
Yes. There will definitely be some good times, but definitely, So somebody else answer that question first.
What am I looking forward to? I don't know. I feel like God has moved so much in our church. I could even say like in the last 5 years, you know. Even through a lot of like heartbreak, loss, tragedy has come a lot of good. I feel like, you know, the church right now is in a very good direction on like how to love others, how to equip others, and help, you know, build each other up. Yeah, I can just think of all the salvations that have happened. So just like continuing to see that, like, and you were talking about like never losing that, like that awe and that wonder of God. And I don't know, I just look forward to like, what is God going to do next?
Yeah.
And Chase was making a joke this morning, or maybe it was last night, he put on a shirt that said like, what is it, the 50 by
churches in 50 years.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and he talked about how old he was going to be at that point. 60 something, I think is what he said. And I was
And
like,
he'll still be here, by the way.
They
By the way,
say
Chase.
Statesboro is
No
a
one's
place
leaving.
you can't leave. I mean,
black hole.
you
It's a
tried to
black hole.
leave. You tried to leave.
We'll never
I've
try to
been
leave
here.
again. She's never tried. It's fine. I feel like I'm just excited about like our students and our college students. Like what I've seen, the change in the students that are in student ministry, being leaders is like the most incredible thing that I've watched so far. Like watching them grow into the people they are right now. Like I'm thinking about the kids that are on the leadership team for students. Sienna Fox,
Gosh.
Addie Grace Simonelli. They were my flower girls, by the way. So let's just
I
forget
just remember holding them when they were babies.
They're babies, you know, and Hartley and it just Bruce and like all these people that are growing up into godly men and women and watching the experiences that they're getting to be equipped to then go into college and experience that, and the way Jordan and Seth and Russ and everybody are equipping the college students. It's like a movement like I've never seen before. Like I wish I would have had that in college. And so to me, that's the most exciting thing, is to see what these college students and what these students are going to do, because like I feel like we're kind of growing into a different season of our lives, and they're coming up to where we were, if that makes sense. And that scares me a little bit, because I'm like, I don't want to be the ones that are supposed to be wise, because I don't think I'm wise. But also, these students are coming in and they're changing things, and they're changing the culture of our church. And I just love it. I think it's incredible. So
Yeah, I think they're just hungry for the word. And
yeah, it's like a totally different vibe of just wanting more and more and more.
Yeah.
Which is
I think
wonderful.
I think that they're very hungry for the word, and that's just like inspiring to like see, and like
it's challenging.
yes, it's challenging for us, and but just to like also lean into that wisdom of the people around you and that have experienced it. And
There's a lot of guys that are like feeling called into ministry, or feeling called to plant a church in our church. And so and Billy says a lot, the next, or one of the next planters in our network is sitting in your congregation on a Sunday lost.
Wow.
And so just to think about like what the Lord can do in 5 years, like he could save somebody and then they could go plant a church within the next 5 years. So just the way that, even the way that he's like, the Lord has led Jordan to kind of set up equipping and to be able to find people in our church that want to learn and want to grow and want to be leaders and are feeling more called to ministry. It's just really, really cool. Like there was a time where the 50 churches by 2050 felt like, okay, like, so where are we going to get these guys that are going to go plant a church?
Cool.
And
Yeah.
now God's just like, well, here's a lot. Like now you have to grow them up and you have to equip them.
Yeah. And he's done a fantastic job, and his whole team. I mean, it's really amazing, everything that the Lord's put on his heart to accomplish, and his drive behind all of that. So I've just, y'all are awesome. Y'all are the best women I know.
You're awesome.
Y'all are awesome. And I was sitting here thinking I've actually fought back tears a little bit through all this, because I'm so thankful. And I know Braden is too, for your husbands and the other ones here. So thankful for you guys. You know, y'all have been there, and I know this is not a podcast to thank everybody, but I'm going to
Thank you,
take the
everyone.
time to thank all these pastors' wives. I really appreciate you guys because y'all have been there and beside me personally and stood beside me through good times and sad times and hard times and bad times. And so I love you guys and thankful that we can do life together as pastors' wives.
That's what we
And
said in our vows. Good times and bad, right?
Good times
Susan?
and bad.
I'll write vows
Yes.
to you.
Thanks. Please
We'll
do.
write vows
Say,
to
do we
each
get
other.
pastor's wives vows?
We need some vows.
Yeah. Yes.
I think that's perfect.
Yeah, so.
Okay, so I hope that I've done Jordan justice today by bringing the most beautiful ladies to the table for the Equip podcast. But I want to kind of wrap it up and just say, what did you say? Like and subscribe for more content.
Please.
This is the Equipping Podcast.